Well, welcome to Palm Sunday. Palm Sunday. So our lesson today is celebrate your light. Now when we're celebrating our light, we're not just acknowledging the truth of who we are acknowledging the truth of who we are, and we're also doing something about it. Because we can walk out of here on Sundays, and we can leave, and we can have that feeling, I'm the light, and I'm here to just express the divine through me, and it feels really good, and maybe we go to lunch, or we go home and get in our daytime jammies, but then what happens on Monday morning? Right, are we still remembering that we're the light? Are we still acknowledging the divine truth of who we are? Or are we maybe getting frustrated at the neighbor whose dog's barking? Or are we mad because of the driver that pulled in front of us? So we acknowledge the truth of who we are, celebrate our light, but we also do something about it. And teacher Yeshua the Christ, he acknowledged the truth of who he was, and he did something about it. And so Palm Sunday is about the day where he claimed his title of the Christ. And when he returned to Jerusalem to start teaching this. So the title of the Christ, it means God made manifest through man. So in unity, we talk about our Christ consciousness. And this is when the divine is made manifest through us. And how do we consciously make the divine made manifest through us? Through our choices, and through our actions, and through walking in faith. Now, teacher Yeshua, he didn't just all of a sudden manifest the title of the Christ. He had to make a series of decisions, and then some choices. He had to make some sacrifices, and he had to take certain actions before he claimed the title of the Christ. Right? So he decided, he chose, and then he lived it. And it started with him getting baptized by water. And he also talks about getting baptized by spirit, but that's for next Sunday, so you'll just have to come back for that. But getting baptized by water represents denying that there are any conditions in our life can have power over us. We're denying that a condition can take away our faith, that a condition can take away our decision to live as the activity of God in this world. And so he made that decision when he met John the Baptist, and he got baptized, and from that point forward, he lived his life as if there was nothing out there that could take away his power to align with the Father within him. Nothing out there could stop him from turning to the Father within him to perform miracles and to teach other people how to do the same thing. And so for us, what that means is to be baptized by water. And I'm going to do this if anybody wants to do it next Sunday after church. If you want it, we'll just go in the crystal room and I just have a little bottle of water. But to be baptized by water, this is where, when we're denying that any condition can have power over us, we've decided to choose to create heaven on earth in spite of conditions or events. Like in spite of what is going on in the world right now, we, right here where we are, we can still choose to create heaven on earth. We don't have to solve all the world's problems. We just create heaven on earth right here where we are. Right here where we are, we decide to be the activity of God. Right here where we are, we decide to be grace generators. So we are adding grace to this planet. And so Yeshua knew that there was nothing out there that could have power over him. So first he was baptized, and then he went into the desert for 40 days. And in the desert, this is where he was tempted by the adversary, by the devil. In unity, we call it the little me. Personal growth circles, we call it the ego. Sometimes I call mine my little saboteur, my little critic, my little rebel. But it's just that little version of us that wants to keep us in error thinking, to keep us choosing from fear. So when Yeshua was in the desert, he was tempted to lose faith, right? That voice, the adversary, was saying, this is all going to be really hard. You're probably going to not like how it ends up. You're not going to have a cushy life. Why don't you just get a wife, have babies, be a carpenter, right? Or something else to get him to lack faith, right? To lose his faith. Well, God is so fabulous and all that. The kingdom within is so amazing. Why don't you go into Jerusalem and go to the highest building and jump off and let God catch you? Because then everybody can see. And then you won't have to go to all this work. Everybody will just see the miracle that is God, and you will not have to work so hard. Now, 40 days in the desert being tempted by the adversary. This is very metaphorical for us. 40 days, in the Bible, 40 days and 40 years, it's mentioned a few times. 40 is the length of time it takes to change something about ourselves. And it may actually be literally 40 days, but in personal growth, like training right now, they've decided 21 days to change a habit is no longer a valid length of time. It's not enough. Because think of the time we've poured into creating habits. Like we've maybe spent 30, 40 years, creating really bad habits. So, or more. 21 days may not be enough unless you're a child, right? A child could change a habit really fast, but not us. We need the 40 days. In the desert, being tempted, we're listening to that voice inside of us that keeps steering us to error thinking. And what is that voice saying to us? What I've heard mine say over the years is, are you sure you want to do that? That's going to be really hard. Right? Or, you're really not smart enough to do it. Like somebody else could do a better job. Like, why do you think you could do that? Or that voice inside of me could actually sound really nice and say, oh, sweetie, that's going to be a lot of work. How about we take today to think about it and just like watch Netflix, and we'll start on Monday doing something about it. In fact, not this Monday, because that's just too soon. You just need some rest. You've been working really hard, And so that voice, it's just steering us into error thinking. So our 40 days in the desert is the time that we examine what is that error thinking and where is it steering us, right? The thing about error thinking is we may not even know it's error thinking. We may think it's perfectly acceptable thinking. That voice that can talk so mean to us, we may think that's normal. And so it's going to take us a little while to get that. And so Yeshua spent 40 days in the desert to clear his error thinking, to stand really strong in his faith. So he got baptized, he went to the desert, and then he started his ministry. Now in his ministry, he had committed, through his baptism, he committed to not letting anything out here, any condition control him. He would totally turn to the Father within him. And then he went into the desert to clear out his error thinking, so now he's ready to put it to work. And so that's the simplicity of just taking everything he knows and he put it to work. He lived it as the truth going forward. Then he returned to Jerusalem. And this is where the Palm Sunday story is. So Yeshua returns to Jerusalem. He claimed the title of the Christ and he accepted the truth of who he was. And so he was ready to teach this to everybody else. He was living the truth. He was being the example of this as the truth, which is why he said to his disciples, all these things I do, you will do, and even greater things. Because he didn't think he was special. He didn't think he was the exception. He was being an example. And so Jesus, he rode into Jerusalem, and he already knew he fit the bill as the Messiah was prophesied in the book of Isaiah. He knew he fit the bill. He just knew it. And so he came to Jerusalem to teach and to heal and to be the example of what is possible for each and every person when we claim the truth of the indwelling Spirit. When we claim this truth for us, that God is all things, and that also means us. But we have to claim that truth. So, he rode into Jerusalem, and he was excited, right? He came in there as a spiritual revolutionary. But the people of Jerusalem didn't want a spiritual revolutionary. They wanted a political revolutionary to ride in and fix their problems. And their problem at the time was that they were being oppressed by Rome. So Yeshua rides into town with high hopes, but then he meets people who, you've heard the saying, teach a man, or give a man a fish, he eats for a day, teach a man to fish, and he eats for a lifetime. The people of Rome, the majority of them, were like, just give me the fish. Just take care of me and just fix my problems. Just fix the problem out here and so I can be happy. Now, meanwhile, so Yeshua's riding in on one side of Jerusalem. Meanwhile, on the other side comes Pontius Pilate. And Pontius Pilate is riding in with his army, a show of brute force. So we have conflict happening in Jerusalem. Now, metaphysically, Jerusalem represents the heart, okay, or the dwelling place of peace. This is where the realization of spiritual power is where we find it in ourselves, is through our heart. But we have to be in peace. We have to be a peace generator to have that experience. We can't be a peace generator if we're in conflict. Now, Rome represents the mind and the thinking and personal will and brute force and physical power. It's from the mind that when we're only coming from the mind, we think we have to manipulate conditions out here. We have to use brute force to change the conditions out here. From the heart, that's where we discover that when we change what's in here first, then the things change out here. So we go here to change first. We go to the divine within us first. But see, in Jerusalem at the time, there was conflict. So Yeshua rode into town because he wanted to teach everyone how to stop living under the authority of Rome. To teach everyone that conditions can never control how we show up. Right? Conditions can never control how we show up in faith. Conditions can never control our ability to choose from faith. But to experience peace here, we do have to know this spiritual truth about ourselves. And then we have to live it. So Yeshua was a spiritual revolutionary, helping people to step into their truth, to rise above conditions. That's what he came to Jerusalem for. But you cannot make a person take responsibility in their life unless they want to. You can't make anybody do anything. You can't make somebody change their thinking. You cannot make somebody change their mind. You cannot make somebody choose better, choose from faith. You cannot give a person faith. We have to discover the faith on our own. And as long as the people of Jerusalem wanted someone else to come in and change the conditions of their life so that they could be happy, there wasn't really a lot that Yeshua could do for them, except continue to be an example of what is possible. And so our call to action this week, our call to action is, like, are you ready? Are you ready to claim this spiritual truth about yourself? Anybody, are you ready? Like, are you ready? And like, what's it going to take, right? The spiritual truth about ourselves is that we are the physical activity of God walking around on this planet. God is working through us, for us, as us. And until we accept that truth about ourselves, we're going to keep trying to make things out here change so we can be happy. And unless we are ready to accept this truth about ourselves and then act on it, nothing is ever going to change in our lives. We're always going to have the same old excuses. We're going to have the same problems. Like, one problem could go, but we'll get the same version of that same problem. There's always going to be another Rome. And this is what teacher Yeshua was trying to actually get the point across. Learn to rise above conditions and trust the Father within, because there will always be more conditions you can use as an excuse to stay stuck. So I'm going to ask again. Are you ready to accept the truth of who you are?
Yes.
Okay. That was a little better. Here we have an affirmation. I celebrate my light and the source. And the source of all good. Let's say it. I celebrate my light and the source of all good. Our light is the source of all good. That light working through us. That's bigger than we are. That's bigger than our bodies. It's bigger than our awareness and our perceptions right here. That light that is us, our soul, that most of it's in the realm of heaven, the unseen. This is just a little part of us right here. There's a big, big, big light working through us. And when we acknowledge it, we call forth more of that big, big, big light to come into our lives. So we've got to do this. We've got to celebrate our light, acknowledge our light, have awareness of our light, accept our light, and do something about it. Live it as if it's true, even if it feels weird at first. Like I remember, I was raised in traditional Christian church, you called God God. But then I was like, I went to work for a chiropractor and she called God Spirit. And I was like, oh, Spirit, I like that. And that sounded kind of weird. It sounded really weird, but I just kept saying it, Spirit. And then I met somebody actually here when I came to Unity back in 2000, called it Source. Source and Spirit, Source and Spirit. And I was like, that's so weird, I love it. Right, and then I met somebody who was like, the universe. Well, I'll call it the universe. Love, I'll call it love. Light, I'll call it light. All of it felt really weird when I first started changing my thinking around it. It all felt really weird. So we just keep doing it. We celebrate our life, our light. We acknowledge the truth about who we really are. We do something about it, even when it kind of feels weird. Because eventually it's going to feel pretty normal. Eventually it's going to feel totally right, totally comfortable. You're going to feel it right here. But see, we have to step into our spiritual authority to demonstrate the truth of all this. I can remember when I would say, okay, I'm the activity of God in this world. Oh, dear God, will you please fix these problems that are happening? That's not being in my spiritual authority. That's like, Sky Daddy, will you fix all this? We are here to call forth the glory of God through us. Well, how do you see the glory of God? Like, is the glory of God, is it settling? Is that the glory of God? Anybody?
Nope.
Okay. We're here to call forth the glory of God. That's the big light, the big love through us, through our choices. And we can only do that when we're demonstrating the truth of our spiritual authority, that we are the activity of God in this world. I have a quote from the Gospel of Thomas, and it is beautiful. You're going to see it here. There is a light within a man of light, and he lights up all of the world. If he is not a light, there is darkness. When we're not a soul that's well lit, we'll be in the darkness. We'll feel like we're in the darkness because we're going to be looking into the conditions of our life for something to change so that we can feel better. And then it'll always feel like we're in the darkness. It'll always feel like we're in a struggle. It'll feel like we're always suffering. A man, a light. I love that word, a light. When we are a light, we're calling forth the good. We're walking in faith. And then we may not know how to fix all these problems out here, but when we call forth the good, when we are a light, we receive hunches and intuition. I talk about receiving divine direction, and I think a lot of times people think divine direction sounds like a burning bush type sign, right? It's a big, loud, booming voice. But divine direction, so much of the time for me, sounds like, just drink more water. Get up and go work out. Don't eat that cookie. You'll feel better if you don't eat the cookie. You don't want the sugar. You really don't. That's your little me. Divine direction sounds like the practical things that we can do in that moment it's for our better good. That's what divine direction is going to sound like. Now, sometimes it can sound like, go to space. Like, become an astronaut. It might sound like that for somebody, right? But for me, most of the time, it's kind of practical. It's practical advice is what that divine direction is. Or it's confirmation. You're doing okay. You're right where you are. You're in the right place at the right time. Okay, so when we are a light, that's when we're stepping into our truth and living as the divine being in the body that we are. When we are a light, when we are accepting the truth of who we are, and we're stepping into the truth of who we are, we want to commit to peace. We want to commit to being a peace generator. We want to commit to knowing God in all things, seeking the truth of God in all things, even in the guy we didn't vote for, even in the world leaders that we think are idiots on this planet, we still are ready to seek the truth of God in all things, and we're open to that, because seeking the truth of God in all things, we're seeking the spark. And when we recognize the spark in somebody else who may not recognize their own spark, just by us recognizing their spark becomes more light itself. They feel that they were seen. if we complain about people a lot behind their backs, it will change how they think about us. It will change how they feel around us because it changes how we feel around them. And they may not even know consciously that we're doing a lot of complaining about them. If we change what we're saying about them behind their back, it changes our relationship, changes the energy between us, it changes the light, because if we speak peace, we speak love, we speak the truth of God, and seek the truth of God even in that person, we're pouring grace into our lives and into their life also. So it changes what's happening between us. So think about, like if you think about somebody you don't like, and decide, you don't have to like them. You don't have to like their behaviors. You don't have to approve of them in any way. But if you just think, remind yourself, the divine spark is in them too. And I can focus on the divine spark, that soul. Maybe like when we're just souls, we're like really good friends. If we're going to talk about this experience of being on this planet. Like that's what I'll do, like when somebody really annoys me.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, well, I bet in souls, we're just like great friends. And we're going to laugh about this later. Right? Like Luke Skywalker, or the actor that played Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader. Right? Like later on, it's like, that was really fun. Being enemies and fighting each other. Okay, so to be a light and be in our own truth, we want to look at what are the gifts that we are here to bring to the world. And our gifts that we're bringing, those gifts are mercy, compassion, generosity, kindness, creativity, love, grace, peace. Those are the gifts that we bring into this world. So we want to ask, am I honoring these gifts? Am I honoring them by giving them? Or is there something that I need to release? Is there something that I need to let go so I can be of service in a bigger way? Right? Do I have an excuse that's keeping me from doing this stuff that I want to do? Do I need to release an excuse? Like excuses, we feel like excuses keep us safe. I don't like this guy, so I don't have to be nice to him. You know, I'm tired, so I don't have to meditate. Or everybody in the house is really loud, so I don't have to meditate. Right? I used to love that. It's like, well, it's too early to meditate. I'm too tired. Well, now everybody's up, so I can't meditate. That was like my excuse. Right? What are our excuses that keep us from calling forth that divinity that's within us, the divine nature? What are our excuses? I'd love to hear some. I'm kind of running out of mine. All right, so we can also do what Teacher Yeshua did. We can have baptism by water. It can be metaphorical. You can sit alone and just, right in that moment, just affirm, from this point forward, I am done using my past as an excuse. From this point forward, I will do my best with what I have. And I'll just let go what I need to let go of. Okay, and then we can spend our 40 days in the desert. And it could take longer. And that's okay. But our 40 days in the desert, that's when stuff gets real. What is my error thinking? Was that error thinking I just did? When I just called myself stupid for leaving the house 5 minutes late? Was that error thinking? Yeah, I think it was. It's not okay to be mean to ourselves. It's not okay to say mean things to ourselves. It's okay to say, well, next time you can be a little more organized and get out the house, right? Okay, so our 40 days in the desert, what we're doing is we're listening to the voice of our little me. What's our little me trying to talk us out of doing that we really want to do? What's our little me encouraging us to use as an excuse so we don't have to do any changing? Right? So that our excuse keeps us from having the thing we really greatly desire. That's our error thinking. That it's talking to us and we're listening to it. Because when it convinces us one time, it knows it can convince us over and over and over again. Then we start our own ministry. And our ministry is that we're taking action and we're demonstrating this power. We do the work. We participate with our lives. We're not waiting. We're not waiting for anything out here to change. So then, well, somebody come in and just clear out Rome so I can be happy here in Jerusalem. Like nobody's going to come and do that. Right? What are we? We are here to work right here and right now. No more excuses. You know, Teacher Yeshua, he didn't make excuses. Right? Like, Lazarus is dead. What? Right now I'm only working on sick people. I'm just practicing with sick people. I haven't done anything that complicated. He didn't make any excuses. He showed up even when he didn't know what he was going to do because He knew he didn't have to know what to do. He knew he didn't have to know how to do anything. He would go to the Father within him. And that's where we get the information. So we start doing the work right here and now without our excuses. And then we return to Jerusalem. Then we are within our heart. Then we are within the dwelling place of peace that's always there. It is always there. There's nothing out here we have to change so that we can feel more peace. There's nothing. All the peace is within us already. And that sounded like pieces. Pieces, like P-I-E-C-E-S, pieces. Those are all within us too. Those are actually, all the pieces are here, and all the peace is here. All the peace is here. So Palm Sunday, it's really a day for us of inner revolution. Right? Teacher Yeshua was a spiritual revolutionary. We are also spiritual revolutionaries, but our revolution's happening within us. But we have to let go of chaos. We have to let go of the beliefs and the excuses that keep us from understanding that we are worthy of the light. There's so many, unkind things we do to ourselves that are not worthy of that light that we really are. So we are releasing all that. We're letting that go. Remembering, we are each of us rooted in the divine. You. You're rooted in the divine. Every cell in your body is rooted in the divine. So we release the peace, we release the chaos, we embody the peace. We're designed to do this. We're designed to participate in the unfolding of our own lives. We're designed to clear the chaos. We're designed to work through the chaos. We're designed to embody peace. Just let the chaos go, however that looks. But we can't do that if we have a mind in conflict. Our intellect, I was thinking about this. Our intellect keeps us in the need to be right. If we're only using our intellect, we're going to have a need to be right. But then I was thinking, in our intellect, and you couldn't say this 10 years ago, in our intellect, we'll also have a need to be left. We'll have the need to be this or that. We have the need, in our intellect, we're in division, right or left. And I was thinking, what happens if you can only turn right? Oh wait, that's left. You can only turn right. You just go in a circle. If you can only turn left, you just go in a circle. I'm sorry, you're all just sitting there what she's doing. When I thought of this, I was just what? What? If we're so stuck in our intellect, we just stay stuck in a circle all the time. From our mind alone, it's just our mind, just our intellect, we're not going to make the optimal choices because optimal choices will always include the heart. Optimal choices will always include that intuitive presence, in the presence of peace. Being in the presence of peace within ourselves, that's how we are able to make the optimal choices. From the mind, we don't have the higher view of things. Only with the heart do we have the higher view of things, like the view from heaven. The higher view that we are all one. The higher view that God is all things, and that means me. To say God is all things, and that means me, that's not very practical. If you're just in your mind, it doesn't seem very practical. I don't know how I could make that work if I was only in my mind. It's in my heart that I know this is the truth. Because I know something in my heart is the truth, and then I feel it in my entire body is the truth. So it's with our heart and our mind that we get the view from above. So right now the time is time for us to be the grace generators, to go into our cosmic heart, be the love amplifiers, claim our spiritual authority. We are the divine made manifest, and that happens through our choices. It happens through our walking in faith. It happens through the actions that we take, and that is how we are creating heaven on earth. So until next time, Remember that you are divinely designed to do all this. You are the activity of God walking around on this planet right now. Don't think really hard about it. Instead, feel it, right? Because we're designed to come from our intuitive heart. And everything you do, you are blessed. And so it is.